Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Omar of Nachman. We're holding the Mem Zayin on base. The Mem Zayin on base. All the way in the bottom. Omar of Nachman, Reya, Shinimoika, Ukrum Shelo Kayom Kshero. We actually have a picture here. So here we have a lung, and the lung became decayed. It ate itself out in one here. Take a look at this picture. All you have is an empty bag. The first thing I thought about when I started learning this Gemara is today when you buy a bag of potato chips, you open it up, it's all air, and there's a little basar on the bottom somewhere. You got to search around for it. So this is like a bunch of air. It just has the membrane. You see in the bottom right corner, it's membrane. Even if that membrane is the size of a kazayas and more, just a bunch of hot air, this is not treif. Not treif. If the lung deteriorates, what's a good word? Not decay. Falls apart. Disintegrates from within inside. But the membrane, the plastic bag on the outside is still there. Even if the amount, it's a large amount. Like in this picture, you could see it's a good revius. You could put a whole cup of wine in this thing in the bottom. It's clear, so it's still kshero. Nitlo shel puchet shlo. If I were to ask you, stam, common sense. If the womb of the cow goes missing, is that a treifa? The answer is no. Why not? Because it could live. You could be a male and not have a woman live. It's not a necessary thing to have. So kshero. Hitliya, and that's because it's completely removed. Hitliya, what if kavitchela, the liver, becomes full of parasites, full of worms? People from Chutzlarts came shloisha regom liyav. They came three. Doesn't necessarily mean 3 yom tovim. 3 times, three Shabbatons, 3 gatherings of Talmidei Chachamim, 3 Yarchikalas. They came to Eretz Yisrael. The Regel Shlishi, on the 3rd time, they were able to get them to get a roiv, and Hitiru lahem. The roiv of the Sanhedrin said, "This is mutter. This is this. Why? Because this liver is going to heal." So this is like the juice part of the problem that we have today with hechsherim. Not the problem with hechsherim, the problem why we need hechsherim, and what the big issue of treifus is, and that is sirchas. Again, sircha is when it gets glued and stuck, the lung gets stuck to something, sometimes to itself. And now we're discussing when the lung gets stuck to the wall of the animal. Unbelievable picture here. You could see the ribs and you see the string. This is the sircha. As explained yesterday, according to Rashi, not all Rishonim agree with this, but Rashi holds that a sircha is created from a wound. There's some sort of hole somewhere, and out of that hole oozes whatever it is, a secretion, to plug it up, and now that secretion goes from the lung to the wall. So there's 2 possibilities. Either the hole is in the lung, which would make it no good, a treifa, or the hole is on the wall, which would make it okay. It's allowed to have a little hole in the rib. And that's the question here. What am I looking at? Am I looking at a treifa or not a treifa? This is exactly what our sheep, when we shechted a couple weeks ago, this is exactly what it had. This exact thing I saw with my own eyes. He said, look inside over here, and you saw that the lung was connected to the doifen. Mamish like that. Now, we're going to see in the Gemara that's a lot better when it's connected, not to the rib, in between the ribs, in the meat. That's a much better thing. When we say it's mutter, it's talking about connected. Over here, I don't know, where's it connected over here? It looks like on the rib. This might be problematic according to the Gemara later. But there's another one I see behind. There's a bunch. So it says like this. Omer Rav Nachman. Says Rav Nachman, we have to remember, this is a sugya today. Most of it. Reya has-smucha l'doifen. The lung, smucha doesn't mean next to, because every lung in the world is next to. It means it's glued to l'doifen. You don't have to worry about there's a hole. Why? Because we're going to assume that it came from the wall and not from the lung. Now, I think it's super interesting because even today's daf, we're going to see that we have a different question. We have a needle, the question of a needle. You find a needle inside a lung and you can't see a hole. And over there we assume the worst because Suffolk, Derais al-Khumra. Why over there do we assume the worst and over here we don't assume the worst? You have two possibilities, good and bad. Why not say it's bad? We have to see the Rishonim discuss it. Helsat tzmachim. If right next to the sircha, you get a bunch of blisters like this. You see over here blisters. If next to the sircha, all of a sudden you have problem number 2, which is a bunch of blisters, so what is this indicating to me? That there's an issue with the lung. The lung is having issues, it's having blisters, and it has some hole somewhere that the secretion, the sircha obviously came out of the lung. Whether it has these blisters, these tzmachim or not, let's assume the worst, and let's assume that the sircha came out of the lung. But I want to eat. This is a $2,000 animal minimum. What should I do? Rav Bar Shava Asberli says, Rav, I got this idea from Rav Bar Shava. Maisin and Sakina the Chalish. Interesting, because if you don't have an art scroll and you read the word Chalish, and everybody understands Chalish means weak. Over here means the opposite of weak. It means a very, very sharp knife. The Chalish Pumei. I thought, maybe it means it's like not so sharp, it's not going to cause too much damage. No, the opposite. You want it to be very, 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 very sharp, very small, and it does the job. You take it apart, and then you check. If you see a hole in the wall of the animal, then I could automatically assume that this whole sircha came from the wall. You see, notice this. It doesn't say I hear noise coming out of the lung, I saw a hole in the lung. If I cannot understand that it came from the wall, because I have no reason to believe that it came from the wall, automatically I'm going to say it came from the lung, no good. Even though there's no sound coming out of the lung, but I don't have a good reason to believe it came from the wall, let's assume the words it came from the lung and it's treif. So says the Gemara, you should know that Rav Nechemi didn't rely on all this. He checked it out with water. In other words, it wasn't enough for him to say, it probably came from the wall. Let me put this lung, blow it up, put it in a vat of water and see if any bubbles come out. I need to see this, not from the lung. This idea, this thing that I don't rely on just checking it with a sharp knife. I need to put it in warm water. You have your tradition, you got it. He said this trick when the lung is attached to the wall. But I say on yesterday's daf, remember this one, check this out. We said if there's a sircha between two ears, it's skip 1 and 3, not 1 and 2, 1 and 3. The problem is eventually it's going to snap and the hole will become exposed. That's where I said that if you have a sircha between 1 and 3, put it in a vat of water. That's where Ibn Nechemi said it. Not on a lung that's attached to a wall, on a lung that's attached to a lung. It's a different problem. I don't know. You have the 2 ears of the lungs that are attached to each other, the 1 and the 3. Let's do b'tikus l'achshurin. There's no way to check it. No, it's okay. Check it out in warm water. Maskevler of Ashi.
It's a big nafta.
Here, Rav Ashi is going to ask a bomb question. Rav Ashi is the one who wrote the Gemara, who put it all together at the end. So he asks, Hi Mai, I don't understand. In our sugya of a lung attached to the wall, talina, bedoifen, ukchera. I have a reason to get out of it. I could say, this is a kosher animal. Why? Because the hole didn't come from the lung, it came from a wall. Great. But when the problem is either the hole, there's a hole over here. It's either from one or from three. So what difference does it make? If one has a hole in it, it's treif. If number 3 una has a hole in it, it's treif. And there's a sircha here, so there's a hole. So what do you gain? Water's not going to help us out. Now we're going back to the first thing that he said. The what? Rachman says that if there's a lung that's attached to a wall, but it also has flowers on it, it has smachim, it has these blisters. This picture, we said that it's treif. If you have a lung that has a hole in it, it's okay. If the wall of the animal, what's a good word? Clogs it up. Is there a better word, Rabbi Isai? The wall seals the hole. It's not a big deal, this hole. The animal's not going to lose that much oxygen. It has a natural sealant. Like Ashia. So Gemara says, let's make an afkamina. Yes, there is a concept that there's a natural sealant. We saw that, and we're going to talk about it again, about the liver and the gallbladder. The liver seals the gallbladder. There's a natural sealant, but it depends where in the body. Let's use common sense. There's 2 parts. Where it's natural for it to seal it, then great. And where it's not natural to seal it, not. So where's it natural, and where does it give it a good seal? Where does it put pressure on the wound, on the hole? Here, check this out. If we're looking at the animal, not like we typically look at it, but now heads up. Usually it's head down, heads up, where you could see how all of a sudden, that's where its neck starts. It becomes narrower. So it becomes narrower. There's much more pressure on that una. We're talking about the una on top. The una is the 3 guys, right? So since over there's a lot of pressure from the wall. You can see the wall of the animal. Great. But lower down on the uma, there's not a lot of pressure. That's what I don't know the exact mitzias, but that's the mitzias. It's wider over there in the animal. The lung is floating around. It's not that close to the wall of the animal, and therefore the wall doesn't give it a nice natural seal. Okay? Gufa, Omer Rav Yosef bar Yumi, Omer Rav Nachman, Reyo shenikva v'doifen sitam tokshera. So that's the sugya today. You have a lung that has a hole in it, and the wall seals it. It's kosher. Provided that the attachment is to the flesh of the animal and not the lung, like here in this picture. Beautiful. You see the sircha in the meaty part and not on the bony part. And if it's not attached to the rib, what's the halacha? Treifa. Why? Because he's assuming that there's a hole. So what if it's attached to the meaty part? It has a hole. We're talking about a zachar, a man's zachrus. If it has a hole, it's called there's different psulim that he's not allowed to get married. One of them is krushavcha, and the reason is b'nei shoises. You have to have a situation where the zera comes out like an arrow, comes out forcefully, and if it just dribbles out shoises, then he's not allowed to get married. Nistam kosher. In this situation, if it plugged up, then it's kosher. He's kosher. He could marry. Then the day he could have children. But pay attention to this next word, just the word vizehu. This is one case in Shas that if you have a hole in your puzzle, but the hole plugs up, puzzle shechoizer le'chsheiri, that's a psul that was no good and became good. But that's one time in Shas. Meaning, in our sugya, Anywhere else in Shas, where there's a hole in his pasul, and the hole came plugged up, it plugged up the hole, it remains pasul. A lung that has a hole in it, and you plug it up, it remains pasul. L'chayra. What's vizel? Unbelievable jump. We're going from a zachar human being to a lung of an animal. Vizel. And the Gemara says you're 100% right. You inferred correctly, and that jump from a human being, Zacharos, to a lung of an animal is a great jump, but the wrong case. There's two cases in an animal. You're talking about a lung that had a puncture and got the wall to plug it up. There's another one. My love, lemute, vizel lemute mai. The word vizel, what does it come to exclude? Our case of a lung that has a puncture and got plugged up from the wall. Loi. Similar, but not really. Another case that we had the other day, where there's a hole in the lung and there was a scab. And that you should know, the scab doesn't work. That's what the vizel means. A scab that's similar to what happens by a zachar, that will pop off and it won't be a good plug. And that's what we're coming to exclude. That case is not good. Mascular Ravuka Bar Chama. What are you telling me? That if the wall, Rav Nachman says, if the wall of the animal plugs it up, it's okay. Ilu inke b'doifen lahada mai shreifa. Take a look at this beautiful, what the Yoshi did here. Givaldik should be givaldik. Can't get any better for now. Here you have a hole in the lung. Hole in the lung, yeah, zoom in on it, nice hole. But you have the meat of the animal that plugs it up, not considered a hole. And what if you unplug that meat? You go like this. Obviously, right now, the lung has a hole in it. So what's the halacha? It's going to be treif. So how come this case is not in the Mishnah? It should say in the Mishnah that if I make a hole in the hide of the animal, which lines up with an existing hole in the lung, if there was a hole in the lung, it's kosher. But since there's another hole in the hide, now the lung became pasul. No, so what's the obvious answer? Now you make combinations of holes. We're not discussing. We're not creating. We're talking about one single hole in the gallbladder, a single hole in the base of chosis, in the liver, and you tell me two holes that line up. Okay. My treifa, listen to Kuvas HaDoifen, and just say another treifa, number 19, that if you poked a hole in the wall of the animal and it lines up with the hole in the lung, all of a sudden you have a new hole, a new treifa. Remember this case? What do you have over here? It looks. I'm just looking. It's funny. It's a liver and a gallbladder on top of the liver. So we said that the liver plugs up that hole if the hole faces the liver. If it's on the side of the gallbladder and it doesn't face the liver, no good. So I could come up with the same idea. Oh, and what if I punctured a hole through the liver and I got to the other side and my hole through the liver lines up with the gallbladder? It's not going to be a good plug. And if you did the same trick that you did with the lung, you did it to the liver, you went through and through the liver, got to the hole of the gallbladder, it's not a good plug. Treifa. Oh, so it should say number 19 in the Mishnah, listen to Kuvas HaKaved. So why is that not a question? If you're talking about a hole that comes from another organ of the animal, that we're not talking about that. We're talking about a hole in the gallbladder, a hole in the liver, not a hole through the liver that gets to the gallbladder. So over here, when you're talking about a hole that didn't, the treifa is not because it has a hole in the lung, the treifa is because it has a hole in the wall of the animal that lines up with the hole in the lung. Like Tani, that's not something we're going to talk about in the Mishnah. Rav Chana Shmuel. Rav Chana Shmuel. Helsot tzmachim out. Another question. What if you have, like this picture, literally like this picture, because this picture we're saying this is in conjunction with a sircha. When you have adhesion of a secretion of a sircha that came out of the lung and hit the wall, plus you have these blisters, that's an indication that the secretion came out of the lung and not the wall. But what if you only have blisters? No sircha at all. That's okay. So again, if you come, you see this disgusting lung. You look at you're walking by the butcher and you see a lung hanging for sale, and it has these gross blisters. In your mind, wow, this animal is a really sickly animal. No, kosher. It gets even better, Rabbi Yisai. I agree with you that if it has these blisters, it's courageous. You should know the Talmidim, they're musopik. They don't agree so much.
Stutter. Hesitation. Stutter.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what he says over there? Nah, that's the
hesitation.
It means the same thing. It was megamgim. It means I'm unsure. Domer Rav Masna Malya Mugla Treifo. Domer Rav Masna Malya Mugla Treifo. If the blister has pus in it, it's a treifo. Ma'im zakim cheiro. Here we have a beautiful picture, very appetizing.
Yum.
This banana yogurt on the left, and clear water on the right. Clear water is good, banana no good. No. You know your Talmidim are making a mistake. There's banana and there's water, but it wasn't referring. It was a halacha. They mixed up the halacha. That was talking about a kidney. A kidney has such halacha that if the pus, the blister is full of water, it's okay, and if it's full of pus, not okay. But not a lung. Rabbi Yosef have a cause about straight there. Here maybe shukah the tabachi. Gishmak. Oh, Malay, I overcall itmar. I just said it. I didn't explain it. I didn't say it inside. I overcall you. Talking about a kidney. Rabbi Yosef have ma'aser boy say I got it now. Rabbi Yosef have a cause about straight there. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shukah the tabachi. Rabbi Yitzchak was walking behind Rabbi Yirmiyah in the marketplace of the butcher's place where they sell meat. Chazdu lahanoch the kaimin tzimche. And he saw lungs hanging there with a bunch of blisters. Yum. Omar lei leboy mar umtza. So he tried to get his Rabbi Yirmiyah. He wanted to see if Rabbi Yirmiyah would buy this meat for himself. He says, I thought the Rebbetzin said, don't forget to buy meat. No, here's a good time. Here's a great opportunity to buy meat. Omar lei Leslie Preeti. Oi, I forgot my wallet. Omar lei Akvinano. So he says, what? Oh, Rebbe doesn't have a wallet. Not a problem. I have credit with this guy. You go on my bill. Don't worry about it. Omar lei ma'avidlach. I'm telling you, I don't have a wallet. I chop what you're trying to do. Get that. No. Now you're trying something else. Maybe you have credit. I'm not interested in meat right now from this guy. But I need to push on. I need to know the halacha. So I'm going to try everything I can. He says, ma'avidlach, what can I do with you? When such a question with blisters would come to Rabbi Yochanan would say, go ask Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. The Mayarba Mishmei de Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, he got it from his brother Rabbi Lazar, Letera. He has a heter. I can't give you a heter, says Rabbi Yochanan. I never heard from my Rebbe. I think it's aser. I want to say that it's aser, but I never heard mafurish from my Rebbe that it's aser. So I'm not going to say anything, but I can't paskin in this. Rabbi Yochanan himself holds that it's aser. He told him, go over there. You want a heter? Go ask so and so. Amarava. And Memela, me too. You're trying to get from me that this is mutter aser. I can't paskin on this. Amarava have him sagnin and basreder Rav Nachman b'shuka the Gildai. When I used to go behind my Rebbe in the marketplace of leather here, we just a picture from our last trip in Morocco. There's a whole leather place over there. So, you see from the Gemara here that the Talmidim, they would walk behind the Rebbe to see what's going on. Some people say this was in the marketplace of Rabbanon. I was trying to think, where in the world is a marketplace of Rabbanon? Every yeshiva these days has the Chavrusa Shuk, the Tumul. That's the marketplace of Rabbanon. Chazi hanach the kaimen kandi kande. Oh, so Rabbi said this is literally kandi kande is in English candy. Candy. Look at this, mamish, beautiful stuff on the lung. It doesn't get any more candyish than this. Just a little slightly larger than tzimche, and the next one is tinrei. But according to Rashi, there are different sizes. So, Rabami Ravasi have chalfa b'shuka de Tveria. I'll never forget this one because this was so even though they passed by, and who was it? It was Rav Nachman who saw this. He saw these sickly looking lungs. He says, okay, let them continue selling the meat. Rabami Ravasi, we saw all the way in the beginning of Shas, in Brachas Daf Ches, it says over there that Rabami Ravasi used to daven between the beams. So you know that they lived in Tveria. To the beams in Tveria, it says over there. Rabami Ravasi have a chalfa b'shuka de Tveria. They lived in Tveria, they're walking there in the shuk. These are mamish, large ones. Also, if you look at this picture, you'll see they're like stone-like in terms of, when you touch them, they feel the consistency is like a stone. Didn't bother them at all. Continue selling, it doesn't ruin the animal. Itmar. Machat shenimtzes bereya. So a fascinating sugya. You open up an animal, and you notice, let's say, just as an example, you blow up the lung, it's sealed, nothing. It doesn't have any holes. You open up the lung to eat it or whatever, you find a nice needle inside. How in the world did the needle get in there? Huh? It was in the haystack. He swallowed it. If he swallowed it, then they said breathed it. Because the big difference, if he breathed it in, then it's kosher. Because it didn't have to puncture anything. It went through the windpipe, through the trachea, and found itself in the lung. But if he ate it, how did it get from eating? Okay, it's not like kids think you eat it, it just goes into a big hole. It went through a pipe, through the 4 stomachs, and all of a sudden lands in the lung. It must have. I'm going to show you how. Here comes the needle. He breathed it in. It went through the symphysis and then it went into the lung. The Gemara understands now that should be okay. It popped in didn't puncture anything. But what if this happened? He digested it with the hay. Went through the whole system, pops out into the lung. What's the problem here, Rabbi Isai? 2 problems. It made 2 holes in 2 problematic places. Problem number 1, it made a hole in the intestine. Even a small hole in the intestines, treif. Problem number 2, it made a hole in the lung. Small hole in the lung is a problem. So you have a double whammy here. Now, I don't know. I don't have a hole in the lung. I did my water test and it's not bubbling. But I have a metzias, which I can't. I'm not going to say I understand it 100%. I do understand it. You have a needle in a lung. How did it get there? You need to explain to me how it got there. I need to assume the worst. The worst is he ate it. He didn't breathe it. That's normal. You find it inside the lung. They say it's okay. Why? Because it came through the trachea. They say it is no good because it came through the intestines. If you have a chisar from within inside the animal, so what does that mean? This is beautiful. Take a look at this. Chisar mebifnim. He did a great job here. Why? Because a needle usually doesn't create a chisaron. A needle creates a nekev. A needle creates a hole, but nothing goes missing. If you put a needle in your finger, will part of your finger go missing? No. It moves the skin away and the needle and goes in. Says Rashi, no, because it's metal, it's a needle. So look at this needle, it's all rusty. Rust eats up the meat. You see over there, he did great. Right over there, rust and no meat. So you have a little bit of a chisaron, but so inside the lung is the chisaron inside the lung, is that considered a chisaron and not chisaron? That's loy. That's not machlokes. The kuli alma chisaron mifnim loy shmi chisaron avada. Everybody agrees that if it comes from within the lung, that's not a problem. So what is the machlokes? Those are the 2 videos that I showed you. One man says, no, it came through the trachea. It came through the trachea is okay. It had to make 2 holes to get out of the intestines into the lungs, and that's why it's a problem. Says the Gemara, somebody was cutting up a lung. He was eating it for dinner, And sure enough, he bites down on a nice, crunchy piece of metal. He looks into it and he sees that it's a needle. I saw the kamei the Rebbe Ami. So he brought it to Rebbe Ami. He wanted to be machshurit. Why? Because he says it came from the trachea. Eisvei Rebbe Yirmiyah they came Rebbe Zreika. And this is the sugya we had yesterday. I'm going to have it twice again today. It says in the Mishnah 2 treifas, a nekev and a chisaron. My chasra, if it's missing a piece of lung from the outside, hainu nikva, isn't that the same exact idea of a hole? You have to say one is inside, one is outside. So don't you see from over here that even though it came from the within, not from the outside, the inside of the lung is considered a treif. He said it's good. Again, it says in the Mishnah to treifas. My chasra, what does it mean that's missing? It came from the outside and the nikvah, so it's identical. The Mishnah wouldn't mention the same exact treifa twice in a row. One comes from the outside, one comes from the inside. So if you have a metal object in a lung which rust, it could take away a little bit of the meat from the within side. You see, that's a chesaron and that's a treifa. How this should really come in the Rabbami v'tarfa? They sent it to Rabbami and he said, "This is treif." Amri la, Amri lei. What are you going to do? We learned the Rebbe say that it's kosher. Omar lehen. What's the connection? When they said it's kosher in the beginning of the sugya, they had the whole lung in front of them. They blew it up. They did all sorts of tests in water, and they saw that there's no hole. So they decided, it must have come from him inhaling it through the trachea. Anan mezetam nachshir. But over here you're talking about a piece. Chaticha. It's a piece of a lung. Maybe if I had the whole entire lung in front of me and I blew it up, in Akva, I'd see that there's a hole. Taimo says the Gemara, the lessa. This is because I don't have the lung. But if I have it in front of me and there's no hole, it seems like it would be kosher if I blew it up and did all the tests. So let's take a look at this. This is very, very important. How does it work? You have a trachea, the main pipe, and then it splits off to smaller and then smaller and smaller pipes, and it brings oxygen to the entire lung. Now, if you have a needle down here, how did it get there? It had to come through one of the symphynos. And if it came through one of the, what are they called in English? Bronchi. Well, upon him, if there's a puncture in a bronchi or bronchial, whatever you want to call it, it's treif. How in the world did you find this needle in the meat part of a lung if it didn't cut through and make its way, puncture out of the bronchi? How did it get in there? And that makes it treif either way. Says Gemara, no, it doesn't make it treif. Ahu l'chaveirei itmar. When you have, like on the right, like these chicken legs on the right, when you have a hole in one of the bronchi, and the only thing next to it is another bronchi, so two tough substances are not going to, he's not going to close up the hole. The guy on the left is not going to close up the hole on the right. But if that's when they're together, but if you have a hole, and lower down, where there's a lot of meat, the meat of the lung is all over the place. So if you have a hole in that tube, what's going to happen? The meat of the lung is going to go into the hole and plug it up. It's not a solid rule that if there was a hole in the bronchi that it's treif. If there's a hole in the bronchi and there's no meat next to it, then it's treif. Only when there's a friend, another guy next to him. So if you were at the shechita, you saw this. It's beautiful. This is the Hadur de Kanta, unbelievable. What is it? Hey, let me show you a better picture even. This is all from the shechita. This is the intestines. In between the intestines, there's fat. That fat, by the way, is kosher. It's one of the fats that's kosher. So if there's a hole in the intestines, there's a hole, but it's in that area, I'm going to assume that one intestine plugged up the other. They're next to each other, there's a plug. I'll ask you a question. Let's use some logic over here. What's worse? If somebody, I'm doing this only for demonstration purposes, Chas Shalom, there shouldn't be any, to get this question. If somebody cuts his finger off completely over here, where does he have a bigger chance of not making it? Cutting the finger over here or cutting the hand up here? What does a person have more of a chance of dying from? Cutting up. So let me ask you the same question. On an animal, where do you have a bigger chance of the animal dying? When you cut it on its thigh up above, or all the way in the bottom by his, like next to his hoof? Where would he have a greater chance to die? You go with this logic, it should be the top. But the fact is, that's the opposite. That if you cut from the bottom, he has more of a chance to die. And they say, I just looked it up quickly on Google, whatever, on ChatGPT. It says that the reason is because it has less blood vessels to heal it. And even today, veterinarians have a very hard time if a horse or cattle injure themselves down below, very hard time healing. Up above, so the Gemara says, therefore, what do you see from here? Don't use your own logic when it comes to trephas. Don't say, when it comes to the ma'ayim, when it comes to the intestines over there, you see one hole plugs another hole. So mele in lungs also, no connection. Lungs is lungs, harder material. This is kishkis, this is softer, different things. Says the Gemara, they had a hole next to each other. One shields the other, it plugs the other. And Mamela, so too by the bronchi, we'll say that one plugs the other. Amar Rav Ashi, trefa is coming down la dadi. You're trying to compare a different type of trefa, lungs to the intestines. And I remember trefa zu dam zu. There's no such thing. If you cut a leg of an animal on the bottom, it will die in certain ways. In the certain ways that you cut it on top, you could also kill an animal. If you do it the right way, even on top, it could survive. It's not getting better, but okay, we'll stop here. Rabboisai, Psuras Toivos, and have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.